Hello everyone. We're live. Very, very excited to be joining you again for the next episode of CEO Diaries. As you can see, I am not alone. I am joined by the lovely Flora. She is our head of marketing operations. And today's session is going to be focused on, of course, operations and also time management. Essentially, how do you manage, or what I call puppet master, all the different moving pieces that come together to deliver a launch? So, Flora, very excited to have you join.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
So I see people joining now. We're live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and also on YouTube. So wherever you are tuned in from, hello. Firstly, let us know in the comments where you're joining from. This is live. It is going to be as interactive as possible. So say hi, but also please, if you have questions, ask them as we go through. Most of you now know the point of CEO Diaries. We are, of course, in a massive launch as Future Females, the community, the company. We are working towards launching soon our new platform that we've been working on since December. And I am sure by this point, you've been getting our emails, you've been seeing our really hypey videos, giving you sneak peeks of what's to come, and you will see more. But also, our commitment as the women behind the scenes of Future Females, supporting you, our community of business owners, is always to tell it like it freaking is. And so as much as it's great that you see everything running smoothly from the outside, this session is intended to take you behind the scenes, to peel back that Instagrammable aesthetic of marketing and share with you what's working, what is not working, what's a massive fuck up that we've made that you just might not see from the outside, but if we can share with you so you don't make that same mistake, it's going to help you in your own launches. So that really is the intention. It's called CEO Diaries because I'm obviously hosting it, and I'm Lauren Dallas, I'm CEO of Future Females. But you'll meet a whole bunch of the Future Females team as we progress through this every week. So that's what you are in store for in this session. It'll be around 30 minutes, obviously depending on how many questions come through. Before we jump into it, one more thing to share is that there are prizes. Well, there's a prize per episode, and all you need to do to win is to interact with us, because it's much more fun for us if you do. So we'd love to encourage that. I can see so many people already jumping on. We've got a Nandi, our Pretoria ambassador, tuned in. We've got, sometimes the names don't come through, guys. So sorry if I don't mention you. Flora, do you want to pick this up while I control my
Yes, I can see names coming through. I can see people joining. So thank you to Jocelyn and Lorato and Amanda and Annette. Thank you all for tuning in. I know you're tuning in on different platforms. We're using a very clever tool, which means that we can see everyone's comments in one place. So thank you for joining. Please do keep commenting, as Laura mentioned, and we'll be taking questions from the chat. And it just is a lot more fun for us if we can feel like you guys are a part of the session with us too.
Absolutely. And the prize that you can win from interacting, and we'll announce the winner in this session. So in about 25, 30 minutes time. Love the dog barking. It's impossible to control, guys. It is. She's also super excited to be here. All you have to do is ask questions, comment, and at the end of this, whoever has interacted most, we're going to invite you to choose your favorite piece of Future Females merchandise, and we're going to send it over to you. So it could be a t-shirt, could be the matching tracksuit, one of my personal faves, water bottle, tote bag. You will have your selection. Great. So I think without further ado, Flora, I would love, obviously, I know you very well now, but if you can introduce yourself, and I think it's also really nice if you can share a bit of how you started at Future Females and how your journey has evolved.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so I'm Flora. As Laura mentioned earlier, I'm head of the marketing operations department. So I was actually chatting to somebody about this recently, about my career path. And when you say head of marketing operations, a lot of people slightly raise an eyebrow, or they're not quite sure what that is, because it sounds like it's, well, yeah, as I say, people don't know what it is. But for me, it actually makes so much sense, because my career path has very much touched on two areas very strongly, and that's marketing and operations. So before I joined Future Females, I was working as an operations manager, and then I moved into a marketing company, and then I moved to South Africa. I'm actually from the UK. You can hear from my accent. And so I moved to Cape Town about 5 years ago now, and I went to a Future Females event, basically wanting to network and maybe meet someone and see if I could find a job in Cape Town. And I ended up just being super inspired by the team on stage and the speakers who were talking about female entrepreneurship. And so I waited ages at the end. There were so many people asking questions to Serena and to Phil, who were the two who were presenting that day. And my one friend said to me, she was like, no, I'm not going to leave until you've spoken to them, because I know you're really excited about this. And I was like, oh, okay, I will. So I waited. I spoke with Phil, and she put me in touch with Lauren and Serena, the two co-founders, and we met for coffee. Went really well, and they said to me, we have been looking for our first employee. We basically, this movement's moving so quickly, we need to take somebody on to help us with all the admin and all the behind the scenes stuff. So yes, please, we're desperate for an intern. So I started with them 4 and a bit years ago now, and I mean, I want to say the rest is history, but my journey through the company itself has also been an interesting one. As I say, I started with the admin and the operational side, which was much more to do with my kind of like training then. But what I found really interesting and what really excited me was the marketing side. And so under the excellent leadership of Lauren and Kojula, who's also one of our heads of, well, who is our CMO. Oh no,
CMO, yeah.
CMO. And yeah, I learned kind of everything that I now know, and it's been such an interesting journey. And to be honest, I'm really excited to be doing this session in particular today, because it feels like this is the pinnacle of so much of our work over the last 5 years. And we've launched so many different aspects, different offerings for the community over the last 5 years. And this, as I say, has really been the pinnacle. So it feels very timely that we're talking about this now and talking about operationally what you need to be thinking about for a big marketing launch.
Absolutely. Floors, I see people posting into the comments here. It's so nice to finally see the face behind the email. So this lovely Flora is the creator of our Friday Female. So I'm sure many of you have been enjoying her work, even if you haven't been seeing her personally. And also someone just saying happy 5th birthday, because of course, you've been with us for just over 4 years, our first hire, but we just hit 5 years in business. Very exciting. Guys, we're not going to focus this session on our 5 years. Serena and I will actually join you next week in CEO Diaries to do some reflection. We hit 5 years yesterday, so we need a few days to celebrate and then to mull on the learnings, and then we'll be able to come back to you properly. Cool. So I think Floors, the funny thing also is literally everyone in our company, we joke, starts as a bartender. And I came across one of our first photos together behind the bar at one of our Future Females events, which is so nice. But I think really you came into your groove in this operations space. And so one of the mantras that I appreciate that you've implemented behind the scenes of Future Females is like more planning, less rushing. So maybe we can start there. Thinking about this launch, or I guess probably the 50 plus launches you have run in the company, where does it start? Let's start way back at the planning stage.
Yeah. And I think the reality with operations and with launching a big marketing campaign is that the one thing you can't get away from is that you've got to be hyper organized. And it's taken me years to sort of like own the skill. And I still think like after every launch, I still think like I could be more organized. There's like extra, you always could be that like tiny bit more organized. And that's something that I've learned definitely is absolutely essential. And I suppose part of that, what I think is really important is that lists become your best friend. And with everything that we've done at Future Females to kind of like, we now have this sort of like kind of how-to package that we follow whenever we do a big launch. So we start with our preliminary overview, which is like our one pager that basically just runs through everything, all the high level info that anyone in the team would need to know, who's working on the campaign, that they can pull things really quickly, like the value proposition, why we're doing it, who it's for, all of that sort of thing. We start there. And then essentially what you need to do is list everything that you're going to have to do up until the launch. And you want to work backwards, right? Because, we have a very big document that explains like week by week how long we need for each thing. So how long does the design team need to, prep all of their designs? How long do we need for any edits on that? How long do the copywriters need? How long operationally do we need to do the actual physical setup? All of that, you've got to work backwards. And as I say, we've got our master doc that says, and I think it is about 12 weeks, depending on whatever, what the launch is, how much you want to put into it. I think our sort of like base document is a 12-week process of every single week, making sure that you are on track and up to date with where your lists are saying. But as I say, that started right at the beginning with us listing every single task that was going to go into it. And the more granular you can be, the better, because and this is something actually one of the other project managers in Future Female said to me, Rakea, the wonderful Rakea, who is also an operations master. We were going through an Excel sheet together, working out how we wanted to do a project. And she said to me, she was like, every single task needs to be in here and allocated to somebody. Because if it's not, then it gets overlooked or people don't take responsibility for something and things get missed. And that's, how you kind of get out of whack. So lists are your best friend, and work out exactly what you need to do every step of the way and work backwards from when you want to launch to work out everything that you need to do, where you need to start, essentially.
Yeah. And I think, Flora, you and I are on opposite ends of the spectrum, I would say, when it comes to a launch, which is why we work so well together. If I can play out a little bit of how some of our conversations look. Flora, I've got this great idea for something we're going to launch. And you're like, okay, cool. Let me start planning. When do you want to launch? And I'm like, well, it's basically done. So let's just launch it. It's basically done is, I think, your most hated phrase from me. You're like, give me a day, come back with the 300 tasks that actually go into it. And guys, I think the reality is you are either like me, you are probably quite strategic, thinking big picture, out of the detail, and a massive optimist when it comes to life, but also time. Or you're probably more like Flora, who is, and I saw our developer giving you love on Facebook, who is the absolute queen of getting shit done and making sure nothing is dropped. Maybe let us know in the chat which of us you are more like, because whichever one you are, you're probably going to need to find the other in your business to get through a launch successfully. It doesn't have to be a partner, it doesn't have to be a full-time employee. It could be, a freelancer that you work with. Rakea, Flora just mentioned, she's a VA. We've worked with her for years and she's incredible. So whatever it is, though, I think that balance is very helpful.
Yeah. And maybe just to say on the balance side, because you might think that the hyper organized side is makes everything easy, but it actually doesn't, because the reality is without Lauren, I would never actually launch, because you can always find more things and more time that you need to do something. So you do need that person who's like, no, at some point we actually have to go live. Yes, you can tweak your designs and your copy for a million years if you really want, but you actually need that deadline to be like, we're going live, it's happening, go. So definitely the balance is important.
Well, I appreciate that. Flores, I'm popping this question on screen for you. So, Shaylee, what tools do you use for hyper-organization?
Okay, yes, great question. And I actually find this personal preference, and it's taken us a while as a team to also work out what works best for us. So there's two main tools that we use as a team. As I say, it is personal, so it's what works best for us. And my advice to you would be to use a couple of different tools. And the way that I would suggest doing it is, hopefully without the time pressure, just give yourself a week or two to play with all the free trials that most online tools will give you for organization and that sort of thing. And so, for example, with us, we use Trello. Trello's free. You can have up to 10 minutes free. which I would highly recommend giving Trello a try. But I know some people use Asana, some people use Monday.com. There's so many different tools out there. And then there's also obviously Excel or Google Sheets does an amazing job. And also Airtable or anything like that also works amazingly. So the way that we do it, and as I say, what works best for us is we do all of our lists, our many, many, many lists in an Excel doc, and we assign due dates and we assign responsibilities. And that document is mainly for me as a project manager over a campaign. So I'm the one who owns that. I'm the one who's updating it every day, who's looking at the due dates, being like, who's behind, who's not, where are we up to? Where are our blockers? What do we need to try and get, like whatever's stopping, kind of getting us stuck in the way. And that sort of thing. But then we use Trello for things like organizing our longer term plans. So like, for example, our content or for like smaller team to do. So for example, like our marketing operations team has a Trello board that we use for our to do, doing and done. And that's where we do like our daily sort of updates just to make sure that like we have our own area. And then the Excel sheet is used for the project itself. So like the actual campaign with all the different departments in it. Because obviously you can use one document for all of it. But I think because of different personalities and what works best, some people are more visual, they like lists. Some people prefer like a mind map or something like that. Some people prefer, so for example, our design team, I know Kirsty writes everything down. She hates having a to-do list on a laptop screen. And so you've got to kind of like work with the personalities in your team too, and make sure that they, that they know what's on their plate and that they're managing their tasks in the best way that's possible for them, but that also you've got that like one true place that is being updated regularly, making sure all the jobs are being done. So,
Yeah.
and as I say, as a project manager or as a campaign lead or whatever, you need to be the person who's running that document. It's fine, other people can be going in and updating and all that sort of thing, but you need to have like one person who's owning it in order to make sure that it is, all the timelines are being adhered to and everything. So in terms of tools, have a play around, see what works for you, and then get stuck in. And the other thing I would say is once you've decided, just commit, just go with it, learn that tool inside out, use YouTube for anything that you're not sure of. One thing you've got to remember is that all of these tools have been designed in competition with each other. So they all do very complicated things that you might even not be aware of. And it's worth actually playing around with the tool to work out how good it is. I actually found an automation that you can do on Trello recently where you can just add a button to each one that you click complete and it takes it to whatever list that you want it to. So for example, the done list, it does that automatically for you at the click of a button without you even having to drag it over or anything. And I was like, I've been using Trello for the last 2 years and I've just found this automation. So it's worth playing around. But then, as I say, commit to the one that you've chosen, because otherwise your life is, you're just going to keep switching between different tools because there's so many and they are all, effective in what they do and designed pretty intuitively. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. Like it is about committing to the tool. And I see people saying they use Zoho Projects or Asana. All of those tools can work. And as Flora said, success is not going to be because the tool you've chosen is incrementally better. It's going to be because you have really mastered how to use it for you and your internal processes. I think something that we have really nailed now, and I see people asking about a template, which I'm going to get to, is our Trello launch process. And now every time we launch, Flora has a board that she just clones, because actually a launch, even if it's a slightly different product or a slightly different approach, let's say it's a challenge instead of a webinar or a summit, it's actually not that different in terms of the step-by-step you need to take. So now we've got this template that we can just make it sound so easy. Flora's like, it's not exactly copy-paste, but it's basically a template that does 70, let's say, % of the planning work for us, and then we're just adjusting. So I think that's the benefit also of committing to the one tool that you have chosen. For everyone asking about our template, this is something actually that we share. So I've seen a couple of our Founders Club members on here. They have our launch template. So they've got a training from me, and then they actually just have our Trello to clone for themselves. Right now, you can't join Founders Club because obviously we're launching this new platform. But if you're not on the wait list, this is a lovely segue to mention it. You'll see in the caption on whatever channel you're joining us from a link to join the wait list for our Future Females platform. Within that platform, you're going to get so many things. You're going to get training on all different topics from successful and world-renowned founders, but we're also going to be including our top, I think it's 23, if I'm not wrong, 23 trainings from our current Founders Club, one of them being exactly what we're talking about, the template, the training, the Trello board. So jump on that wait list if you're not already on it. Floors, I think this is a good segue to, I guess, the assets, right? So we've spoken about the planning template, but something that always strikes me is, particularly in a long launch, we're in like a 2-month launch, you've got to keep things fresh. And that means more copy, more banners, more landing page designs, so many different moving pieces and people, which is even harder to manage, let's be honest, than the tasks. So do you have some tips you can share on that?
Yeah, definitely. As you say, this is definitely one of the hardest bits of a big campaign launch. So from our side, I think there's maybe two things that I would recommend or suggest. The one is, this goes back to your lists again at the beginning, in that, and I know it sounds silly to say that you like allocate for the unexpected, but for example, we know that in a campaign launch, we're probably going to want to test our landing page a couple of different times with a couple of different designs. So we'll start with one. We'll have a look at how well it's working, and if we think, okay, no, we could maybe tweak this or this or this, then we'll do some A/B testing, and we'll switch up the landing page. So when I'm listing at the beginning all the different tasks that we need to do, I allocate for the fact that we're going to need different variations for those different assets, right? So our ads, our landing page, our social posts, those are the main key areas. And as you can probably imagine, it mainly affects design and also our copy team, because obviously we're also changing up the copy. So another part of this, and again, it touches on the lists, but also on your team, is that you need really, really clear briefing structures. And that's something that we've spent a lot of time on. And our different departments actually have different briefing structures. So for example, our design team are briefed in a Trello board, our marketing operations team are briefed in a Google Sheet, Google Doc. And it kind of just, again, depends on the department and what the sort of brief is that they would need for how much information and whether you need to be able to attach assets and all that sort of thing. So make sure you've got those briefing templates in place initially, especially if you're also working with an external resource. So for example, if you've outsourced your designing or your copywriting or anything like that, then you want a briefing structure that works really well for you too, that you feel is, you can get all the information into. So even if you don't have an in-house designer, make sure you've got a briefing system that you feel comfortable with, and that gives you the ability to give all the information that you need in a brief. So as I say, when we list all of our tasks, we brief the design team on this asset. And then the next task will be create this asset. And that's obviously the design team. And then we'll give, there'll be a task allocated to, like edits or any changes that you want to make. So like revisions of this design. And so then it means that we have the time built into our plan for any edits and revisions and all that sort of thing. So yeah, list all of the assets initially, make sure you've got really clear briefing structures, and give yourself enough time to do revisions and to do additional work on top of. One thing I would definitely say with a big launch, especially if you're launching for the first time, is that there's always going to be things that you didn't plan for, that you only realize, the day of. You're like, oh, I wanted to go live on Instagram stories and on this channel and this channel, and we need different thumbnails for each of those, and we haven't created the thumbnails. So there's gonna be last minute things that pop up, and prepare for that. And don't be scared of it. Don't be worried. It's okay. It happens to all of us, and it's how we learn. So embrace them.
I can see a few different questions here that I think we can answer in one. There's some people asking about the role of marketing. When do you do different things? So I did mention that when you sign up to the platform, you'll get a framework, but obviously that's a few weeks away. So maybe just to give you kind of the structure of the launch, and then Floors, we can maybe dig into specific aspects a little bit more. We think and prepare for our launch in 5 phases. So phase 1, Flora was speaking about at the start of this live, which is the strategy and planning stage. So if you only just joined us, don't worry, this is streamed, so you can watch the recording later. The second stage that I guess you were just speaking about is, I guess, the design, which is literally creating as much of the collateral upfront as you can. I think something that's really overlooked, and we'll touch on in a couple of weeks for CEO Diaries, is managing your energy through a launch, particularly if you're by yourself. It is really hard to be excited every single day of your launch on stories while watching your results, while optimizing, while building. Like, it's just freaking hard. So like what Flora was saying, do as much of that up front, even prepare for your comparisons, your testing, your variations in that stage. Then we go into pre-launch, which is where, and someone was asking about the hype phase. Of course, we need a hype phase, definitely. We're technically in pre-launch right now. You guys are on the wait list. Unfortunately, the platform is not ready yet, but it's getting there, which is when we'll open the doors. So for right now, as exactly as the question suggested, it is about the hype. And that's also something that you can pre-create. Then the launch itself, which is normally time-bound, and then the post-launch, which, you know, we would always do a recon. We call it a post-mortem, like a look back on what worked and what didn't. And then obviously supporting your customers who did sell. So those 5 phases, and even if you just maybe start mapping your own launch out in those phases with timings against each now, before we then are able to give you access to the training in the platform, I think that will help. Cool. So, I mean, Fours, there's so many questions. I think a question that would be valuable is, how do you stay on track? And also, how do you know where to double down, or maybe what things you can stop doing? I know there's almost a lot of a mental aspect to a launch, and sometimes things don't work on day 1, but they might work on day 5, and you don't want to make those decisions too quickly. So how do you track and decide what to tweak?
Yeah, so this is a good one, because as you say, you need to give everything enough time to see whether or not it's working. So for example, with us, if we launch something, then we know that we're going to get a great response initially, because obviously it's new, it's fresh, our engaged community, you know, lots of you who are joining us today, you'll know, like, when we launch something, it's with you in mind, and it's for the community. And so we get a big response at the beginning. And then obviously it trickles off once your kind of like main organic engaged community have signed up or joined, or whatever you know, if you're doing a webinar or a new course or whatever it might be. And so that's the point when you need to start thinking, okay, we're moving into our colder audience now. And so what are they going to respond to? Like, what's the messaging that's going to work a bit better for them? We normally try and give it, I mean, roughly it would be like the first week, we would test the first series of like social posting and our landing page and our ads. And then after that, we'll start seeing, okay, if there's an ad that stood out, we're working with a great ad team at the moment, and they'll always say, if we've got a standout performer, then we always need to create some competition for it. So like, you can't just rest on your laurels that you're like, okay, this ad's performing really well, we're happy. No, you need to do better. So we're constantly trying to create competition for ourselves to find the best and most optimized ad that we can, as it were.
I like the term that they use for a challenger. So it's like, even if
yes.
it's going, how are you going to challenge that?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, as I say, you need to give it a little bit of time. My recommendation would be about a week, and then start playing and tweaking. It obviously depends how long your live period is. And if you've got, for example, if you're doing an open cart that is more restrictive, so for example, if you're only opening the doors for a product for like 4 days, then you don't have long, and you actually need to be able to react quite quickly and to try and keep that hype as high as you can throughout. So my biggest advice for something like that would be to be really inside your campaign, like be tracking everything that you can. And I know, again, most of us are solo entrepreneurs or like founders who are side hustling, that sort of thing. So like time is not on your side for things like that. But what's worked really well for Future Females is just to always be data driven, and to try and take the emotional side out of it and just look at the stats, look at what is working well, and yeah, be kind of like really in the data and using that as your guiding tool.
I mean, that's such good advice. And actually, we've just changed how we do our team meetings. We used to do every week on a Monday, but we realized during a launch, things are changing much more quickly than weekly. So we actually report now every single day. So Flora and myself, we fill in for every single channel, our stats, our acquisition. Then we have a full team meeting with outsourced providers as well. So even if it's just you, or even if it was just you, yeah, block out the time and go one by one, what's working, what's not working, where can we double down? So I think the data never lies. So I love that advice. There's a couple of questions here I'm going to pop on screen in a second, but just maybe while I pick the order, what's been the biggest challenge for you operationally so far? 4 weeks into our launch?
Okay, good question. So I think the biggest challenge really is taking into account the different personalities in your team. At the end of the day, your launch is only going to be as successful as your team is engaged. And so you, as a project manager, you need to be aware of everyone's different personalities and what their needs are in order to be able to perform at their best for the launch. So, and a big part of this is, especially if it's a marketing launch, obviously, is that there's so much creativity that needs to go into this. And so as a project manager, it's very easy to be like, these are the deadlines. Why are you not meeting the deadlines? But from a creative point of view, your copywriters, your ideation phase people, your designers, like they need time to be creative and they work differently. So for example, Lauren's the kind of person that you could start having a conversation and she already has like 4 ideas and has gone down a tangent with each one and could like basically start executing. Or you've got people, so like, for example, like me, my creative side is that I need time with something. So I need someone to like bring up a problem or something that we need to solve. And then I need probably like 2 or 3 days to just like sit, think about it, work it out. I'm very slow. And then you've got and then you've got our designers, for example. And again, we've got the brilliant Kirsty and amazing Michaela, and they work differently themselves too. And they get inspiration from different places. They need different amounts of time on different projects. And so in terms of the biggest challenge, I would probably say that it's allowing for creativity in your project and giving the people in your team the right space and the right time to be able to perform at their best. So, you know, there's no easy fix for that. I think it's a case of just being able to get to know your team and get to know everyone's strengths and weaknesses. I think Bianca actually mentioned it in the chat earlier about like playing to different team members' strengths and weaknesses. But it is a huge part of project management and of organizing things operationally. So yeah, don't underestimate, I suppose, how important that bit is too.
Yeah. That's a really good point. People are the one thing you don't have control over. You can control your tools, you can control your own tasks, but that is always a challenge. I want to jump into this one from Hong Yok or Jade, and I see Shaylee also asking a similar question on LinkedIn. So how do you know what the right campaign or project is? And then Shaylee said, how do you manage if you're not getting the response that you thought it would? And Foz, if you don't mind, I also just want to add 2 cents on this because you don't know exactly what the right campaign or project will be. A couple of things. Firstly, as entrepreneurs, we are problem solvers and typically innovators, creatively thinking about how to solve a solution better than it's been done before. I don't necessarily think the same applies when it comes to a launch strategy. And this was something that I had to learn the hard way because I'm very much like, how can we do things differently than it's ever been done before? But actually launching and the phases, we spoke through earlier, or the funnel that you might create, if that's familiar terminology for you, the customer journey from stranger through to customer, that's been done. It's been done by every business basically that's successful to this point. And actually trying to do something different that's never been done before can really be a disservice. Rather, when it comes, and Flora, be interested in your perspective on this, but there are best practices for every step of the way. And our most successful launches have potentially been the least creative behind the scenes. The concept might be creative, but it might be a webinar. And we've done hundreds of webinars. People in the world have done millions. Our concept is different, but the actual execution, like day 1 email, day 3 second email, is exactly as it's always been done before. So I think if this is your first launch, or maybe you haven't had a really successful launch before, try to just follow someone else's recipe, whether it's ours that we'll share with you or someone specific in your industry. You've just followed their launch and you can kind of retroactively pick apart the steps, maybe ideally a combination of both. I always think that's the best place to start. Once you have a launch that is killing it for you, that clonable strategy, then I think you start adding your own unique creative flavor.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, definitely, I agree. Yeah, I 100% agree. I suppose maybe if I was to add one thing on top of it too, would be, so something that's worked amazingly for us, and then I think lends itself really well to female entrepreneurs, is to act with authenticity and with openness and transparency. And so Future Females, from day one, one of our core values was community driven. That was like right off the right from the start. When Lauren and Serena and the founding team were thinking about what we wanted for the Future Females movement, that was one of the core values. So what that's meant for us is that we're able to always go back to that when we're in doubt at any point. So if we're not sure if a product's working for people, or if we're not sure if we're serving people in the right way, we can always go back to just asking our community, our customers, what do you want? Is this right? Is it working for you? And it comes across, you get brands who are hesitant to do that because they think that it looks like they don't know what they're doing. But the reality is you actually have the reverse effect, in that people realize that you actually are just trying to deliver what they need and you're trying to fit their needs. And so that's always a strength. And as I say, I think women do that really well. And I think it's a strength that we can play to, and that then it helps you know whether or not you are about to launch the right thing or that sort of thing. So, for example, if you're thinking about a launch, you can ask your community, even you can just do an Instagram poll, on your stories, being like, would you prefer a live session? Would you prefer a free resource, like a downloadable? Would you prefer, a one-on-one coaching session with me? Like, you can ask people exactly what they actually want. And on the one side, what I would say to always bear in mind with this, not to completely contradict everything I've just said, is that obviously people don't always know what they want. And sometimes they think that they want something, and then actually it's just because they're used to that, and that actually a bit of change is good for us. So don't be afraid if you get a response different to what you were expecting, to still try if you really believe that there's value in specifically what you're trying to do. But at the same time, use your community and your customers and ask for feedback and bring that authenticity into your business. It's a game changer.
Thanks for sharing that, Flora. Absolutely. For a long time, our Future Female strategy was, we could sum it up in a sentence. We ask the community what they want, and then and hopefully that's also what, that's the approach we've taken to the platform and how you all will receive it. Couple of things. Firstly, we are nearing the end of CEO Diaries. So I just want to remind you all about the prize, because we will be picking the winner and announcing it in the next 5 minutes. All you need to do is interact. So I've already got a couple of people in mind. I also want to give a quick shout out to Roline Human. That's her Facebook name. She is currently tuned in on our Facebook page. And I'm giving Roline a shout out because she's actually second on our wait list. And for all of you on the wait list, if you're not, the link is in the caption. For all of you on it, you'll have seen that you have a position on the wait list. This is not intended to put you off. Obviously, if you're on the wait list, you're going to get an invitation to the platform, but it is because we are rewarding people who are engaging the most. So the more you share the wait list, or future females generally, with the community, with your network, the further up the wait list you move. So Rolene, I have to shout out to you because you are number 2 of about 7,000 people, which means you have been hustling, sharing the Facebook page, sharing your unique LinkedIn link, sharing on WhatsApp, email, etc. So we really appreciate that. And I think, it flows on from what you were saying, Flora, in terms of involving your community. Involve them before your launch when you're testing and defining your idea, but as much as possible, involve them in your launch too, because you've put effort into building this network of like-minded people online and they want to be part of it. Rolene, I'm assuming you want to be part of it because I know how much effort you've been putting in. So thank you for that. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about and are like, what, I have a spot? You can just go, I'll pop it actually in the chat. If you're on the wait list, you'll have it in your email. If you're not, you can sign up and you'll go straight to it. You'll see that you have like a status page. And on here, you can see where you are on the wait list, which is how soon you'll get access, but also your unique sharing links. So obviously, we'd just really appreciate if you share, if you like what we're building and you think your network of friends and colleagues would benefit. But there's also a whole bunch of prizes. So if you don't win today, you can just simply win by sharing. Floors, there's a comment here that's actually now getting votes from other people for you to answer. So I'm going to pop it up. Eliche, I hope I'm saying that correctly, asking you, how do you prioritize your work and what to do when you're running behind schedule? So I guess some time management tips would be very useful.
Yeah. This is such a good question. And the reason it's a good question is because it's actually something I really struggle with too. And it's very easy when you're running a big campaign like this. And as I say, with all of your lists, to get so caught up in all of the jobs that you forget actually what the priority is. And you sort of, you end up like, working ridiculous hours trying to get something really small done that actually is not going to move the needle for you at the end of the day. So firstly, it's good to just bring yourself back to that big picture regularly. So we have a daily stand-up where we talk with our team and we look at the stats every single day. And for us, that's super important because it means that we never get too bogged down in the actual tasks. We're always starting the day from that high level of being like, okay, cool. We made like big moves on this channel yesterday, but we're, less so on this channel. And so then we know exactly where we need to be prioritizing our effort and our energy. The other thing to think about when it comes to priority is obviously what's actually going to bring in money. So this is something we go back to at the end of the day when we need to. If we're getting too bogged down in little things that are like fun to do, but that aren't actually moving the needle. So, what's going to actually bring in the profit, what's going to have the impact that you're looking to have. So for example, at the moment, we're thinking about the wait list. We want to notify as many people around the world about what we're building, right? That is our absolute priority at the moment, is that we are building this insane product and it's going to be so beneficial for so many entrepreneurs. And so how do we make sure that as many people as possible find out? And that's the one question that we're trying to answer every single day. So as I say, go back to your high level every day, start the day there with your kind of like number one priority question, and make sure that you're answering that question before you're getting to all the other things that feel urgent, but that actually aren't that important. And something actually that Lauren taught me was that quadrant. I'm sure lots of you will have also heard about it, where you do like your urgent and important, your urgent but not important, your I'm going to get lost now, not urgent but important, and you're not urgent and not important. So you literally work out all of your tasks, you allocate them like that. So that's also worked really well for me personally. As I say, something that I struggle with is that I get wrapped up in all of the things and I forget to prioritize. And so having something like that quadrant, or going back to your daily kind of like, what is our big answer with big question that we're trying to answer, really helps with that.
Absolutely. Flores, you mentioned Rakea before, who's another member of our operations team. When I was speaking with her last week, she said she's actually renamed her to-do list her impact list. And I loved that. So I immediately renamed mine. But it actually is such a mindset shift, because that's what we're doing with Stand Up. We're looking at where can we have the biggest impact. So maybe like a quick thing that everyone can do instead of tasks, which obviously sucks. No one likes working through a to-do list. Maybe rename it and focus on where is the greatest potential for impact.
I love that.
So Rakea's on Facebook. Yay, that's me. It is. Our incredible Rakea. Okay, guys, I think we're going to conclude CEO Diaries in just a minute. I know there are questions we didn't get to, so apologies. But we also don't want to keep you for hours, because we hope you're going to come back next week. So we'll try to keep it to the nuggets for you. But we do, of course, have a winner to announce. And Flora, shall I announce, or do you want to?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Our winner is, and I just put her comment down so I could put another one up. We're not going to answer this question, but Elige, you are our winner. So thank you so much for joining, for sharing, for asking many questions. I'm sorry we didn't answer them all, but we really appreciate the interaction. We are celebrating you, and we will be in touch. Actually, if you can just DM us with your email address, then we'll be in touch with all of the merch options that you can choose between, and we'll be sending it out to you. So congratulations, Elige. Perfect. And then just before we wrap, I see a couple of things. Isavari, yes, our new ambassador about to launch in Kalifi. So welcome. We're very excited that you joined. Looking forward to attending your launch event. Gail, if you're already members, do we have to join the waitlist? That's a good question. So if you are a current member of Future Females Founders Club, you don't have to join the waitlist, but actually for everyone, we would recommend that you do. If you're in Founders Club, you're going to get first access anyway, because of course you're already a paying subscriber to Future Females, so you'll be part of that beta group. But for everyone, the benefit of jumping on the waitlist is, of course, you get first access. Secondly, you get those sharing links. And if you just literally post on channels, then you're going to win prizes. Like, we're going to send you our playbook free. We're going to send you the launch training. If you get 10 points, which means you've referred 4 people or 5 people, I believe it is, then you'll get an email from us with free access to a normally $200 training on exactly how to launch. You'll get our Trello, which I mentioned, the template. You'll get our how to launch on Instagram, how to launch on LinkedIn. So it's worth just using those links and sharing with people, and that'll be sent over. But the third thing you get from being on the wait list is just more communication from us. So Flora and I and the team, we call ourselves Future Females HQ. We're the headquarters. Obviously, we have the ambassadors around that, and then you guys are amazing community around that. But what was I talking about? I've lost my train of thought now. There's so many more things to share. Anyway, yeah, then you'll get more detailed communications from us on value adds, and also sessions like this where we're really just sharing content, stories with you guys. So if you enjoyed this, make sure you're on the wait list. Cool. Flores, thank you. Always so lovely to chat with you and to have your wealth of knowledge shared, or at least some of it. So thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you. It's been fun, as always.
Of course. I see Nontando asking about becoming an ambassador. Please just send us an email. There's a simple application form. We'll be able to send it over to you. I'll pop the email address in. For everyone still tuned in, CEO Diaries is a weekly session. It's normally on a Wednesday, so we'll go back to Wednesday from next week, just to confuse you guys a little. Next week is a really exciting one. I'm going to be joined by my co-founder, Serena, also COO of Future Females Group. And we're going to be celebrating, firstly, with all of you hitting that 5-year milestone. Literally cannot believe it's been half a decade of Future Females, a very happy half decade. But we're also, of course, going to be sharing with you our key learnings over the past 5 years. So whether you're still working up to that point or have been in business longer and know that 5 years is quite a milestone, we hope that you'll join us. We're also going to talk a little bit about what we call surprise and delight. So how do you exceed the expectations of your audience to set yourself apart? So I'm really looking forward to that. So yay, thank you everyone. Thank you, Flora. And we're really excited to see you next week. Cool. Bye.
Bye.